All right. In three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to Know the Score. I'm your host, Don Delarente, and I'm joined by the Libra icon, Dwayne. What's going on, bud?
Hey, not much in North Carolina. Heading back to Nashville tomorrow, but it's been a great weekend for Mother's Day weekend. But got a whole another week of sports, so let's get it.
All right, all right. Know the Score is being brought to you by the CSPN, and you can find us on the web at www.cspn.us. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. You can find us on Twitter at KTS Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Don Delarente, and you can also follow Dwayne on Twitter at the Libra Icon. So, Dwayne, the NHL conference finals are first up on the docket. The Washington Capitals followed up their strong effort in game one with a 6-2 win in game two over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Capitals head back home leading 2-0.
Very, very good effort by the Washington Capitals, and these guys are on a mission and taking two in a very tough place to play. In Tampa is very, very remarkable, and one would say that the Capitals have a lock on this series going home, but they haven't really been that good at home in the postseason. I remember when they squandered two to the Columbus Blue Jackets in their first series, and then they lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins and on the road as well. So I mean at home as well. So um, I think a lot of people, even in Washington, they're approaching this with cautious optimism right now. They're happy that they're up 2-0, but they've had their hearts broken many times. But what Tampa Bay is going to have to do is get more sticks on the pucks on defense, use that forecheck, get the speed going that they haven't had in the first two rounds. I think this has been um, they pretty much just taken this as a cakewalk for the first two rounds, and I don't know if they've underestimated Washington or what, but um, even though, given the history of the Capitals, this series, they're in full control. All sides point to it, but we just have to see how they perform at home tonight. Game three, 8 o'clock Eastern time on NBC SN, and so it'll be very interesting to see if Tampa Bay can find if Tampa Bay can find a way to get everything together to play a complete hockey game and not blow a 2-1 lead. The power play's been doing fine. It's just they've given up a good 5 goals after they're up 2-1 in game two. So Vasilevsky's going to really get it together. Braden Holtby will have to continue to be the wall he's been for Washington, but we'll see how desperate Tampa Bay looks when they hit the ice for Game Three, because they got to play this as an elimination game, because if they go down 0-3, it's very, very bleak for them.
Yeah, if any team knows how, what being down 2-0, how, fragile that really is, it's the Capitals because, they were down 2-0. So, and then they came back and beat Columbus, like you were saying. So they can definitely understand that it could easily be turned around really fast. So I think they're going to stay hungry. And so far, they're just, out skating the Lightning, and that's rarely done. And they're taking advantages of the even man play. Like you said, Tampa Bay is actually doing pretty good on the power play, but 5-on-5, the Capitals have really dominated. So we'll see what Tampa Bay can do defensively to kind of slow that down. We'll move over to the Western Conference Finals, where the Golden Knights, they won game two, 3-1 to even up the series at one game apiece with the Winnipeg Jets. So the whiteout was quite the thing to see in game one, and Winnipeg got that one. But then the Golden Knights have taken the home ice advantage back, and they've gotten that one road win. So now the series can officially start, and we'll see what they do at home. So talk about the Golden Knights doing what they had to do, getting that one game, and going home with a little bit of momentum.
Well, one thing Vegas has done very well is adjust after games that they've lost the previous one. They have looked pretty good in game two, um, using their defense into offense. Jonathan Mastersold, he's actually been one of the key scorers. I mean, whenever he scores, Vegas is like at least I think 7 or 8-0 when he scores a goal. So Tomas Tatar came back from injury. He was one of the big pickups from the Detroit Red Wings. He came in and scored a goal and really silenced the whiteout. And now with the series going to Vegas and 3-1, advantage game two, we'll see how Winnipeg can respond to to the environment. I mean, they did survive probably one of the most hostile environments in the NHL at Bridgestone Arena, winning 3 or 4. So if there's a team that can win on the road with ease, it is the Winnipeg Jets. So you just got to really see how Paul Maurice is going to do adjusting after this game. And it's really been a game of adjustments in these NHL playoffs especially for the teams that have been out west. It's how you lose one game and how you bounce back to win the next game. So we'll see how things happen in the West Final, how it unfolds. Game 3 Wednesday night in Vegas, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I really like the Jets through this playoffs. I've really kind of started to root for them. The more that I see them play, they're really fun. They're really exciting. Their crowd is really excited, and they really feed off that home energy. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of get one off of the Knights here when they move back to Vegas, because their crowd is going to be very similar because, this is their first year and they got a chance to do something unprecedented with the expansion team. So it'll be interesting to see the shifts due to the home ice.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you say that the Jets will be just fine, I think you got, really good players. Blake Wheeler, team captain, Dustin Byfuglien on defense, Josh Morrissey, Mark Scheifele, and of course Patrick Laine, who's only 20 years old. But with Vegas, they're gonna have a juiced up crowd. But I mean, they have a pretty loud crowd. But Winnipeg survived probably the loudest crowd in the NHL in Nashville. I mean, the decibels got up to about 120 at Bridgestone Arena. So I don't think Vegas is loud, but they're not as loud as Nashville. And so if Winnipeg can get 3 in the loudest environment, I think they can get at least 1 and take home ice back and make it at least a 2 out of 3 series.
All right. So, we'll keep you updated here on the next episode of Know the Score. Again, this is Know the Score. I'm your host, Don Delarente. I'm joined by my co-host, the Libra icon, Dwayne. And we're going to shift over into the NBA as the conference finals finally got started, as the Boston Celtics used a fantastic first half to jump all over the Cleveland Cavaliers. They won that first game 108-83. The Celtics were led by Jaylen Brown. He scored 23 points. He had 8 rebounds. And Marcus Morris got the start, and he made the most of the opportunity as he added 21 points. Man, this was a weird game, because now it's like people want to talk about it, but they're so used to LeBron kind of, waddling through this game 1 where he kind of loses all the time, that everybody's waiting to see what happens in game 2 before they kind of put their definitive stamp on what happened in game 1. So it's been a very strange couple of days surrounding this basketball game and the outcome. So as a Celtics fan and also a journalist, kind of put your 2 hats on, and then, tell me what you thought as a fan, and then kind of as your journalist hat, what you saw objectively.
All right. Well, the fan side first. I loved it. It was something that I wasn't expecting. Not just, I mean, Celtics win is always a great thing. I thought the game would be a lot more closer, and but the way Boston went on that 25-point barrage in the first quarter, it was just a great thing to see. Just the way the Garden shows up for these games, whether it's a day game, a night game. Um, it really just the team, the energy needed to, feel off, and that's one of the reasons why they're a good 8-0 in the playoffs. I want to say 8 or 9-0 in the playoffs right now. So it's something. See that, yeah, 8-0 in the playoffs. So try for 9-9. So protected home court very huge. As a from the journalist side, you know, Marcus Morris. I mean, let's give him credit. He went out of his way and said he's probably one of the best players out of Kawhi Leonard that could stop LeBron James. And a lot of people are like, "What are you doing? Why are you poking the bear? What are you smoking?" And he ended up. I mean, LeBron only had 15 points on 5 of 16 shooting, and when LeBron isn't going, the rest of the team looks pretty lost. And it looked like, Ty Lue ran out of timeouts very late. I'm very early in the fourth quarter, trying to stop the bleeding. And, it was just kind of one of those things where, he got a feel for what's going to happen. I mean, game one's always been a feel out game. But we'll have to see what he does for game two or what adjustments Brad Stevens will make, because Brad Stevens even said himself, this is, we need to be even more on point for game two because we know LeBron's going to come back with a vengeance. So
Right.
I'm hoping as a fan, they can continue that Garden momentum. I'm hoping a 2-0 lead would be pretty awesome because a lot of people said Celtics would lose, and as a journalist, picked the Cavaliers in 5. Um, but it would be kind of nice to say, hey, give this team more credit than what they deserve because they're still doing this without Kyrie or Gordon Hayward.
Does this game to me look like a game where LeBron was trying to get his guys into the game in the first quarter, especially? And Kevin Love was just missing his shots that he was getting. Jr. was missing shots, and the Celtics were just getting the ball and just running out, and getting easy buckets, and they just piled up because the Cavs didn't shoot that well. So it'll be interesting to see in this next game where I'm pretty sure LeBron won't be so passive to start, where he's gonna look to score and be super super aggressive in the first quarter, especially the first half of the first quarter, where then we're going to be able to get a real test to see kind of what Brad Stevens' defensive scheme really is, or how to shut down LeBron if he starts going into, Super Saiyan mode of I'm just going to do whatever I got to do to put us over the hump. So I think that's what a lot of people are waiting to see, kind of LeBron going to game 2 LeBron mode, which is always, Death Star LeBron, I call him, where he's trying to obliterate you in the first half and flex his muscle and be like, okay, I'm going to put the fear in you right here where, I can do whatever I want. I was just messing around the first game.
Exactly. And that's one thing as a fan that, I'm fearful but ready for. And then, but on the flip side, I'm just also looking at it like, here, here we are. We got this first game. We can get the second game, and then just see what happens from there. I really think that people have underestimated this team. all postseason long. I mean, this is a team that also has been out in the first round of Milwaukee on paper, and then the Sixers were supposed to sweep them in the second round. And so now it's like, okay, now they got LeBron. LeBron's going to stomp through them. So we'll just see what happens from this point. It's just kind of just a ride that I'm just enjoying at the moment.
You have to give Danny Ainge a lot of credit because I think Jeff Van Gundy was making this point that as a team, is they're much bigger and they're actually quicker than they were last year with the
Yeah,
moves that they made by trading Isaiah Thomas, getting rid of Avery Bradley, getting rid of Olenek. They've kind of like changed the whole makeup of their squad, and now they actually kind of have a team that maybe is built to kind of guard LeBron,
right.
where they can just, it doesn't matter who he gets on, they got somebody who can body him up, at least slow him down, long enough where the help can maybe come over and make him, because LeBron, that's the one thing most teams count on about, I think, when they play LeBron, is he will make the smart basketball play. So if you double team him, he's going to move the ball. He's not going to,
Exactly.
over dribble or take a bad shot usually. So you can kind of manipulate, if you get beat a little bit, but most teams don't have enough people where they can hold them long enough where guys can get over there to kind of help them. So I think that's kind of another thing that's underlooked about Boston's team is just kind of the guys that they have now as far as size and length and being able to move their feet and guard multiple positions. That it's kind of look like they geared up their team just to kind of get into this scenario where if we have to guard him over and over and over again, we got guys who can do it.
Right. Agreed.
All right.
Agreed.
So we'll move over to the Western Conference, where this is definitely the one that's got everybody's, attention. All the eyes were on this. This is basically, the two fastest guns in the West, and they're going to have a duel. And Houston started out fast, but they could not sustain it as the Warriors, behind 37 points from Kevin Durant and 27 from Klay Thompson, beat Houston 119-106. James Harden led the Rockets with 41 points. A lot of people are saying that it might be rut-row time for Houston because they hit them with that haymaker in the first half of the first quarter, and they got up double digits. I think it was 12 or 13 there for a brief second, and then the next thing you know, we get to halftime. It's tied up. The Warriors haven't really played that well, and you know what they're about in that third quarter, and that's that action, boss.
Yeah, and yeah, that's probably one of the things that we forget about the Golden State Warriors. This is something that even as a team, the Warriors kind of wanted to see how they could do as the road team, not having that top seed, not being at home, and they answered the call really, really well. We always know that. One thing I've noticed as a team, with the Golden State Warriors is when that third quarter comes on, that's the period that teams really need to clamp down on because that's when they turn it on. This was before KD, during KD, and what happens is, they play their same style of basketball. It's just once the third quarter, they get out the locker room, they're already, got the feel for the game, and next thing you know, they're just hitting barrages of shots, and it can come from anywhere. It can come from Curry, Durant, Thompson, even Draymond Green or Andre Iguodala. There's always somebody able to make a shot. And like you said, Houston just ran out of. I think Houston just ran out of gas, and the isolation basketball can only work to a certain point. And if Mike D'Antoni isn't going to change up anything and still stick with this iso ball, we might not even see a 7 game series. We might be seeing a sweep of you're trying to do the same thing and it doesn't work. It's not going to be a pretty sight, but this is what Houston was built for. Houston was built to have a season like this, 65 wins, top seed in the West, best record in the NBA. And, all that went to naught with 1 game. Now they got to try to win 2 to get that home court back. And one of those wins had to come into Oakland. So now you guys just wonder how are we going to clamp down on defense, and who else besides James Harden and Chris Paul are going to step up. I mean, Clint Capella was virtually neutralized in this matchup. Eric Gordon is going to need to make some shots. Um, I would say Ryan Anderson, but he's on a milk card, has been for the last 2 years. Somebody besides Paul and Harden going to do something at this point.
Eric Gordon actually did have a pretty good game last night. I think he scored like 18 points off the bench. What I found very interesting was they both made 13 threes, but Golden State shot a few less, so their percentage was better. Golden State made, I think it was 40 field goals, and I think that the Houston had something like 39, something. It was kind of close. But the difference was at the free throw line. The Warriors actually shot 13 more free throws than Houston did on Houston's home court. And when you think about them, Houston, that is, having Harden and how often, he baits people into getting just crazy free throws, that was the hidden advantage in the game, and how the Warriors were able to basically win this game and hold Houston off, because it was really close, and a lot of other statistics, Houston out rebounded them. So you have to look at kind of the sneaky stats like this, because you have to figure if Houston's going to win a game in this series, they're going to have to get a whole bunch of threes and a whole bunch of dunks. And you're going to need more than two players, like you said, contributing to that.
Right.
Especially if Kevin Durant's going to just score over whoever you put on him at any point from anywhere on the court. I mean, there was like a shooting gallery.
Right. And it's at this point because there's really virtually nobody that can guard Durant anywhere around right now. So you just got to let Durant get his and find ways to, let everybody else.
They put so much pressure on you because, I mean, even their second team is less talented, but they move the ball even more than the first team, so they make up for it. So they're even tougher to play on your defense. Right. You got Klay Thompson and Livingston always cutting through the lane, and they're very good finishers in the lane. So, and the big guys can pass off of the cut. So, I mean, it is very hard to play these guys a bunch of games in a row and beat them.
Right. It's a juggernaut. It's a true juggernaut, and it's just tough to stop.
And the greatest thing that Steve Kerr and his organization has done is they've taken a bunch of guys and they've convinced them that if we can all share this basketball, we'll all be good. Like from the first man down to the bench, the last dude on the bench, we'll all be good.
Right.
And they've totally bought into it, and it's just hard to stop, but beautiful to watch.
Exactly. Poetry in motion.
Right. So before these game twos start, kind of what you think about Golden State? What do you think in Houston? What do you think Houston's going to be able to do in game two? I think we understand what their adjustment needs to be as far as offensively, but it may be just trying what they can figure out on defense that actually might help them win this series.
Well, I think one thing they're going to need to do is to just stop looking for the rest, for one. There was a couple times where, especially that backcourt violation. Was it a backcourt violation? Absolutely, but the whistle was not blown, so you have Klay Thompson. Literally, he could have got out of bed, made breakfast, had a lunch, warmed up, took a shower, got ready for the game, and played most of the game, and then he still made the three. Like, they gave him so much time. Like, the way he was able to just get his feet set for a good 10 seconds and then make the shot. Like, that was very, very poor defense. So they're going to stop looking for the refs, clamp down on defense on this whoever's in the game. I mean, even the second unit is hard. Like you said, it's hard to guard, and they're going to need to move the ball a little bit more. Um, the isolations are fine, but if Golden State's just going to converge on the guy that they're isolating, then you need to find another strategy or get that ball out to somebody who's open that can make a shot. Um, those are two of the biggest things I noticed in this game. Um, if they can uh, not unravel in that third quarter and just play basketball, they have a chance to win game two. If they do the same things in game one without any kind of adjustment and still looking for referees' assistance, they'll be in a very, very dire situation going back to Oakland. So they really need to win this game.
Yeah, yeah, this is definitely a must win at home coming up in game two for Houston. So we'll see what D'Antoni's got on his blackboard the last 36 hours and see what he can cook up. This episode of Know the Score is being brought to you by Blue Apron. You can get $30 off your first order by just signing up. Go to cspn.us and then click on Keep Our Podcast Free and click on Blue Apron to sign up for your first order. Blue Apron will then start sending you great meals, nutritious meals to your home that you can prepare in 30 to 45 minutes. And it takes out the hassle of going to the grocery store and knowing what to get to eat healthy. It's all right there for you, contained, fresh, everything right there for you to go. So you can help keep the podcast free here at Know the Score and eat healthy by just signing up for Blue Apron through cspn.us. So, Dwayne, we're going to get into our final topic, and the Supreme Court reverses their 1992 ruling that betting on sports is illegal due to the, it would impeach the integrity of the game. It's basically what they would say. It would, make it easier for the games to be corrupted and so forth. Well, they have turned that around, and the court has decided that they will now allow the states to individually make the decision on to allow sports gambling in their state or not. So kind of like what they've done with the marijuana laws. It's not so much the feds are cracking down on it. It's kind of like, hey, if you want to do it here, you can. If you can't, if you don't, oh well, you don't have to. So just first off, your initial thoughts when this first came down. It's just like bombshell of a ruling.
Well, I mean, I first saw it, I was kind of just, didn't really phase me one way or another. I mean, this is good if you do the daily fantasy and, placing bets that are actually legal. It's one of those things where the integrity of the game isn't being harmed with anything. I think we're in a world where, daily fantasy, money leagues, one day leagues come into play, and people want certain players to perform at a high level, and it translates into the actual bottom line of the game itself. And I think if we just are able to focus on, these states, just if they do allow, just focus on, DraftKings and other daily fantasy companies, FanDuel, things like that. Um, I think most of these states will realize that their teams are not going to be affected by this if they have a team, and it's not going to affect any players you know the unless the players that deliberately violate by the governing bylaws of their specific league, CP Rose. But should this is a good thing for this is progression in the sports world. It's kind of probably the evolution of sports where fans do use a lot of different statistics and analytics and trying to strategize their fantasy football draft strategy or their daily fantasy strategy, try to win some money and go from there.
So there's about to be, let's say, they think that they're projecting that maybe in the next 4 to 5 years, that 32 states will have some form of a sports bet in their state. They're saying that New Jersey may be able to get something up in time for the NFL season that's coming up. So they were the state who took this to court. Chris Christie, he fought it, put it in the Supreme Court, and they won. So um, now you have this extra revenue that's going to come in. So of course the leagues are going to want to get some. So they're going to, I guess, provide some sort of way that you can go online through their website, NBA.com, I guess, and you could place a wager if you're in a state that allows gambling, I guess, and you may have to pay a 2% fee for their service to allow them, to allow you to place your bet. So that's money for them. TV will definitely see an uptick because now you got people with an interest in games that they might not normally sit through. But if you got money on the game, you're definitely not turning it off until the very end. Then you have, especially the teams are going to be able to start placing ads in casinos and getting revenue from that they could never do before. So all of this extra money comes about, and guess who still doesn't get any? The college athletes. So talk about kind of how everybody else is going to get more money and college is still going to get left out, it looks like, in the end.
Well, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to have to just see how the ruling kind of plays out for the NCAA. We all know that this is a cricket organization, under the facade of amateurism, but breaking in all the dollars and, trying to justify it with scholarships and a free, quote unquote, free education is and has been bogus for many, many years. The cash cows of the sport still are not able to get their wonderful and fair share of items. And it's one of those things where there's nothing against, the coaching staff's not an indictment on them. They're just doing their job, putting them in the best position to win. And they're doing a great job of being what's the word I look for? They're doing the best job they are being the head men of these programs, and it's just one of those. It sucks for the college athlete, and of course, because you have to do these things, and you still have to, check your eligibility, make sure it doesn't violate anything, and it's pretty much all I got for that.
But see, that's where I figured that's where a integrity issue would come. It would be always easier to influence a college kid just because of their circumstance. Whereas, an NBA player, you can never offer him enough money to throw a game. You know what I mean? Or, a referee, maybe. But, a college kid, for sure. Especially if they get hooked into, hey man, you got all these people betting on you making money, you got your coaches making money, you got your team making money, you got the concession stand making money. You're not making any, but here's a quick way you can, and all you got to do is just have an off night by just a little here or there.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah.
don't take any normal shots you wouldn't take or make, but just don't make as many you know
Right.
So, I think that that would be the way that if they wanted to be smart, that the state, if they were going to come in with this, it would have to be on something where, I don't know, you allegate whatever percentage you want and say, hey, this is for the college athletes, colleges that you bet on.
Mm-hmm.
And, somehow that money goes back to those kids who played for it.
Right. Agreed.
That would be the smart way to do it. But this is the NCAA we're talking about, and they haven't really done anything smart in forever.
And never, yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up like DraftKings, because that's another thing I was going to touch on. Is like you said, they already have the built-in platform, so all they have to do is basically use the GPS on your device, find out where you are. If you're in a state that allows the betting, on the end of the tab where they have games, they'd probably say like sports bet or sports book or something. And you click on that, and then you can just bet and do whatever you want right there from your phone.
Right.
And you already have, you're already used to that. You don't have to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's kind of gotten in tune to that type of, like you said, wagering system that they kind of have,
Yeah.
where you may have to put up $1 to enter the game, or $3 in the game, or $100 to enter the game, depending on what the quote unquote prize money is. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting wave for everything, for not only just the sports themselves, but the way the sports are marketed, the media coverage, because now Bill Belichick won't be able to just be like, oh, Tom Brady, thumb. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to, can't just put people on the 50 guys on the disabled list and not disclose like a little bit more information now, because you need it for the purposes of the public having all the information they need to make sure that they can do this the way that it's been mandated. So yeah, it's a lot of things going to be changing. So the next 5 years in sports are definitely going to be something new, depending on which states begin to legalize it. Like, just think about this. Think about a state like South Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really nothing happening in South Carolina, right? But what if they decided, okay, we're going to make gambling on sports legal, right? And then they put the sports book at south of the border.
Right.
That would be like dope. It would make it like a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
You could do something cool. If North Carolina would be slow to adapt to doing it, then what I'm saying, it's not that far from a lot of the major cities in North Carolina.
Right.
To get to south of the border. And then, what I'm saying, you get more tourists and you get income, because there's going to be a tax on the gambling, of course, and whatever you sell in there is going to have sales tax, things like that. So it's going to be a whole bunch of ways to just make money off of what people do undercover every weekend or every night. Just put it out in the light of day, and you actually find some new people that actually will be like, well, it's here, I can do it. We're not doing anything else, might as well.
Right.
So very interesting time. So definitely something to be watching late. So, you never know, man. You might wake up in a next year or a couple of months, and you might be able to, bet on your football team, college, pro, Sunday or Saturday, or the Super Bowl, those crazy prop bets that come up, right there from the, from your phone. Just I'm gonna put $50 on first score is gonna be a field goal.
Oh, great. Next thing you know, you're richer.
Right. So just brave new world in the sports landscape. So definitely gonna keep my eyes on that. So Dwayne, I'm gonna turn it over to you, man, for any final thoughts, thank yous, or anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about.
Let's see. Anything we didn't cover? I want to say pretty much. So on the in the world of European football, um, there is the championship playoffs going on, and the championship playoffs are going on in English football across the pond. There are there are three slots for the Premier League. Three teams get relegated from the Premier League to the English Football League Championship, and three teams get promoted from the Championship to the Premier League. So this year is Swansea City, Stoke City, and West Bromwich Albion. Those are the three football clubs that are going to be leaving the Premier League after this year, or after this past Sunday, I should say. And three teams that are replacing them are the Wolves or Wolverhampton Wanderers, Cardiff City Football Club, and the there's teams that are seeded 3 through 6, and those teams that are seeded 3 through 6 actually play a two leg run before the championship playoff final at Wembley Stadium. It's going to be Fulham Football Club versus Aston Villa, and the winner will get the third spot in the Premier League. Um, and so Fulham came back on the second leg at home and beat Derby County 2-1 on an aggregate, and Aston Villa held off Middlesbrough with a 1-0 away win and a 1-0 victory on the aggregate. So those two teams will play not September, May 26th in the final. The winner will get the third spot in the Premier League for next year. It's the same day as the Champions League final, Liverpool and Real Madrid. So probably something I'll be looking at in the next few weeks, and probably giving some props to the winners on the score.
All right, little fitty for those of you guys out there who are into that. The NBA draft lottery is going to go down a little bit later. The Suns at 25% have the best chance mathematically, followed by the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Hawks, and the Magic. So good luck to all the fans who are any fans of those teams. Their fortunes could turn around if they do get that number one pick, or at least if you get in the top three. I'd say if you get in the top three, you got a chance to turn your program around. Robinson Cano got suspended for 80 games after a positive test for PEDs. A couple of days after getting hit on the hand, where he's going to be out a few weeks anyway because he had a fractured hand. So on top of that, now he's got this positive PED test, and that might be enough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. He was basically projected towards a Hall of Fame career. He was the leader in most hits for active players. Because when you get to people making 3,000 hits, you always start looking towards who's the next guy who's playing, who could get it. And he already had like 1,800 hits, and when he was well on his way to getting another 1,100 for his career to make it to 3,000, so 1,200 to make it to 3,000. So big blow for the Mariners as well. He was their big name player, the guy who was bringing everybody into the ballpark. He was living up to the contract and the expectations, but this setback would definitely, be a big blow to them in his career. So, hopefully he can bounce back after this. So that's always sucks when, big stars like that get popped for PEDs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, one more thing too. This might be my final thought. Carolina Panthers did get sold today. Jerry Richardson, who was and is still under investigation for racial and sexual actions in the workplace. He sold the team to David Tepper, who was the minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the price of the team, $2.2 billion. Tepper, I think, paid that in cash. Um, That's straight cash, homie, straight cash. So it is unclear if there's any minority investors. I do know that Tepper does not want to change anything on the football operations side. Ron Rivera, Marty Herney, Cam Newton, they're all under contract. Tepper doesn't want to make any changes there, so that's a relief to Panther fans. Probably the biggest relief is he's not focused on a new stadium in Charlotte. He wants to enhance the stadium experience at Bank of America Stadium, which, is 23 years old this season, but it's in the upper third of stadiums in terms of age, but it still is pretty brand new, and they still have had significant renovations on it anyways. So I don't see anything happening in terms of the Panthers leaving, which was probably one of the biggest concerns of this area anyway.
Two things before we get out. First off, it's very fitting that somebody who was a part owner of the Steelers would actually buy the Panthers, because they've always tried to model themselves after the Steelers.
Right.
That's always been kind of their, initial. That's the reason why they went and got Dom Capers to be their first coach, is because they wanted to try to figure out what the Steelers did and what made them so great. So on that note, they finally accomplished that. Second, if it's true that this dude paid for this team in cash, with actual real money that he actually had on hand, and not just I got to liquidate all this stuff and then I actually have this for you to get, then I think he would have a couple of $100 million around just to be like, I'm gonna buy this land right here and just put a stadium up. Here it is for y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the most popular and options where there is land available is on the border of North and South Carolina, over by Carolyn's amusement park. So
yeah, and then truly make them the Carolina Panthers and not the Carolina/Charlotte Panthers, huh?
Right. Exactly.
But
put the 50-yard line at the state line. There you go.
But I guess that's kind of the same thing that Jacksonville, their group has done in the last few years, where instead of trying to get the city or the state to build them a new stadium, which would definitely mean that they would probably have to move if they played that hardline position, they just started putting in the money into their stadium and trying to change up their stadium experience. And my cousin's a season ticket holder. He's been for over a decade. And yeah, he says, man, going to Jacksonville games now, he's like, it's so much fun because they got TVs everywhere. They got all kinds of lounge places where you can drink and ledges where you can just kind of overhangs and things where, it's like a lot like the game sometimes it's just in the background and you forget that you're actually at the, football game because the stadium is now.
Yeah, the pool is really my favorite part of that stadium experience too. The pool that they have at the stadium.
Yeah, so if he can kind of take some of that and bring that to the Panthers. I've never been to a game there, but if that's kind of what he has in mind, kind of go that route, then that's a good move for the Panthers. And like you said, it helps everybody in the city and everything to, the stadium experience is not always as fun because you don't have the TVs and that, just other things to do if you get restless besides sitting in your seat. So the more that you can bring to the stadium experience, the better. So good luck to David Tepper, right? That's his name?
That is correct.
All right. So good luck to David Tepper and his $2.2 billion investment. So
yes.
All right. So for my co-host, the Libra icon, Dwayne, I'm Don Delarente. And now you know the score.